Hello and welcome back to the Faith and Culture Commentary Series. I'm Kathryn Camp. And today's topic I'd like to talk about is the word consensus. And I am going to do a part 2 to this, more on the spiritual meaning, but I believe that I have to set this up from a secular point of view first, and then to understand why it's important. So, what is a consensus and what does it mean? And as Christians, why should we care? Well, first let's look at the definition. A consensus is a position or opinion reached by a group as a whole. Definition 2, when there is an agreement amongst a set of individuals. However, it is not necessary to have a majority rule or a vote to come to the position that the group agrees to take. Did you know that? We're kind of led to believe when we're told, oh, there's a consensus and we think such and such, or we don't think such and such. And this is coming from podiums of supposed officials that are supposed to guide policy in our country, which affects us at the real level. So it is imperative to understand that a consensus does not, I repeat, does not constitute a position based on facts or reality. It is a position that is agreed upon by a group of individuals and their opinions. That's a big deal. It is very important to listen to the language used and to pay attention to how the consensus is delivered. In other words, one must ask, okay, who participated in coming up with this consensus? What are their personal interests in taking this position? Are they being funded by a certain group that would benefit from a certain outcome? What is their educational and employment background? Believe it or not, their background may have nothing to do with making decisions for policy. They may not even be qualified, but because they are in the upper echelon and can rub shoulders with people who have a lot of money and self-interest to make more money, they might be put there on purpose to do the bidding of those who want to control things but are not elected officials. We have to be very careful. We also have to ask, did the members who come to the consensus consult a variety of opinions based on factual data? Or did they come to their conclusions based on emotional investment, financial investment, or presenting their opinions in an echo chamber? And that's how they came up with it. That's their consensus. We really have to pay attention. We are living in days of a lot of misleading statements. So let's look at a recent example that misled millions of people from around the world. See, we are living in an age of deception. And because of that, it is imperative to pay attention to the whole picture and not be blind sheep, just going along. Falling for a misleading claim of an expert consensus could cost you your life or the life of a loved one. In 2021, the political leaders in power used many deceptive tactics and coercive tactics to force the American population to take an unproven medical intervention injection into their bodies. They told the American people that this mRNA experimental injection was, quote unquote, safe and effective. These people in positions of power continued to tell the population that the scientific consensus was that these C-19 experimental injections were safe, while history has now proven that they are not safe, were not safe. Also, they were deadly and still are. and have caused millions around the world either to end up in an early grave or to suffer with permanent disabilities. How many people do you know that have died in the last 4 years? Unexplained. Or they suddenly have disabilities or illnesses of all types. The tactics used to convince billions of people to take this experiment into their bodies incorporated a constant, nauseating drumbeat that included claiming that a consensus of experts had agreed that this was the only way to get a person's freedom back. They got away with it because those in political power were working together. In other words, they were colluding with all of the media and had made backdoor deals with social media giants to censor any opposing opinions. That's been proven, and it's going to come out more and more. I'm speaking to you right now in the fall of 2025. Just wait. It's already out there. Most of us already know it. We've seen the paperwork, we've seen the contracts, we've seen the discourse going back and forth. We've seen the scientists and their discussions on their emails. A lot of that's hidden from the general public. Reach out to me. I'll send you the links. Scientists and doctors at the top of their fields recognize the danger of these experimental mRNA medical interventions and were sounding alarm bells all over the world. They knew that these injections were not ever tested on humans, and that in the animal studies, all of the animals died. Did you know that? The experts in their fields that ranged from the biological, medical, biochemical, epidemiological sciences, and many other scientific and medical professions from around the globe were not invited to participate in the consensus that the public would be persuaded by. If they had been, they would have tipped the scale away from those who would benefit handsomely and financially. And they did. There's a money trail. See, these top professionals in the field of science, they were kept from warning the public and raising the red flags by being excluded from the meetings that created the supposed official consensus. Not only were they deliberately excluded, they were censored and silenced, as many lost their high-profile positions for speaking up. Some were murdered, and some were attacked with more biological weapons so that they would be sick and not speak about it anymore and keep quiet. Well, for those who are still alive, it didn't work. It's too important. These are people with integrity who continue to speak up and will continue to speak up. Fortunately, we're in a little bit more friendly atmosphere right now after, January 21st, 2025, where people can bring things forward without the fear of being knocked off. But the fear is still there. It just won't be as easy. The general population should have been asking important questions about this consensus that was being used to coerce people into becoming human experiments. So, who was involved in making the consensus? We need to ask these questions because it's going to happen again. We need to ask for a list of names to be produced. What are the qualifications of these individuals who are speaking up? Mainly these television doctors. They get paid millions, and they are being paid on the back end by pharmaceutical companies. And who knows what other grants they are seeking. So we also have to ask, how would each of them benefit from pushing this agenda? What was each person's background? Like, what did they do before this? Where have they been offered other jobs? Do they work together with some of these big firms that are going to benefit greatly? Did any of these individuals have a financial interest in the pharmaceutical companies involved? This is really important. The love of money is the root of all evil. And people are willing to lie and get paid to promote a product that could kill you. There's a certain athlete on a high-profile NFL football team who made, I think he was offered a $20 million plus contract for pushing that very shot. Shame on him. I won't mention his name here, although I'm really tempted to. So, why were top doctors being silenced and or discredited? Because they were. We need to ask, what are the list of ingredients in this novel mRNA injection? People are still clamoring for it. Have they looked at the inserts? Do they know anything about the VAERS reporting system? Do they know anything about all of the deaths that have happened around the world? So why were the inserts of the C19 mRNA shot packages blank? I could bring an insert from any prescription, and it is probably about 3 feet by 2 feet when you unfold it, and it is packed with information about whatever the prescription is. Why were these experiments blank? You didn't even know what was in there. Where were the double-blind placebo studies affiliated with these new injections? A consensus means nothing and can be riddled with flawed and false information that could cost you your life. This was the case with the experimental jabs. The evidence shows that millions of people lost their lives all over the globe as a result of trusting the government and unelected, self-appointed officials of these globalist organizations. So let's get to, why is this so important? Why am I going on about this? Throughout Scripture, the reader is told to be vigilant of the world around them. Genesis 3 lays out the reality of a spiritual battle that most people tend to forget about. When Jesus walked the earth, he spent time healing the sick and casting out thousands of demons. The same demonic reality remains today. Those demons didn't go anywhere. They just left that person. Do you remember the account of when the Gerasene legion of demons, meaning over 1,000 in one man, begged Jesus to put them in the pigs and not send them into the abyss? Now, they may not have, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe they didn't say put us in the pigs. Maybe they just said, just don't throw us in the abyss. So he said, fine, go, you're allowed to go there. And then the pigs went crazy and threw themselves off of a cliff. That is not natural behavior for an animal. See, the adversary of humanity is always looking for ways to destroy all of humanity. Just read 1 Peter 5, 8 through 9. He seeks to destroy you, to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants to leave you at a deficit, meaning he wants you poor. He wants you sick. He wants you maladjusted mentally. He wants families to fall apart. He wants you to die without ever coming to Christ. He wants to destroy you. Don't ever forget that. It is vital to understand the meaning of the words that are used that will affect our lives, especially when there is a militant push to do something to our physical being. Jesus warned his disciples to be alert and aware of the signs of the times. His warning was meant for all generations of disciples that followed throughout the ages. Jesus told us that there would be such tribulation in the last days that no flesh would survive unless the days were to be cut short. This calls for vigilance. You see, those same demons that were in that Gerasene man, they're looking for other people to inhabit. And they weren't the only ones on the planet. They're all over. And maybe another time I can have somebody who has been working on and studying how these spirits work. I can get them on the show, like Greg Reed. He knows. Dr. Greg Reed. He knows. And so does Dr. Michael Lake, who I respect very much. These are scholars. doing work that most people are too afraid to do. But somebody has to warn us. These are enemies of the people. They will infiltrate your life. They will follow you from family member to family member. So we need to protect ourselves. And knowing about them is the first defense. Deception will be a large part of the tribulation, okay? And this is where it is imperative to ask questions. When it comes to claims of a consensus, everyone also needs to pay attention to the larger picture around the world. For instance, what's going on? What's going on in Europe? What's going on in South Africa? What's going on in China? What's going on in Japan, in South America, in Australia? What are they facing? Are they hearing the same jargon? If they are, we really have to wonder, does this seem like a coordinated effort? Who appears to be leading the charge? Are odd people who we did not elect making vital and forceful decisions for everyone and lording influence over our elected officials? I'm talking about the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum. Who are these people? NATO, the United Nations, the Bank of International Settlements. What do all these people have in common? They're globalists. There are many more acronyms out there. Their whole job, their whole ideology is to rule the world and to decrease the population. See, people have often wondered how the mark of the beast mentioned in Revelation 13 will come about. So it would be wise to pay attention to the signs of the times, just as Jesus warned about. Transhumanism is a real thing, and there is a big push to get everyone on board. This means those who want to control humanity must first find a way to get their nanotechnology inside of every human alive. Did you know that? Numerous information technology companies are developing brain chips to read your thoughts, and they plan to interface this technology with a cloud system that will capture those very thoughts. Not only can they read your thoughts, that means there's also a two-way communication. They can also fill your mind with thoughts. So what happens when they affect the pineal gland, which is where it lights up in our brain when we're worshiping God, when we're having private conversations with the Lord that the enemy doesn't know? This is how Satan is going to get into our heads, because God gives us strategies. Only God knows what's going to happen tomorrow, an hour from now, 3 weeks, 10 years down the road. And he gives us, if we're listening, he gives us strategies. But if the enemy is constantly putting things in your mind, how will you know what's God and what's Satan? See, this whole process of loading your thoughts up to a cloud, this is what is known as singularity. Many of you probably already know this, but if you're hearing this for the first time, this is real. There's also a push to digitize currency around the world. Why would they want to do that? Why? They're going to tell you it's for your convenience. One must ask, well, who will control this digital currency? Is it possible that you will be punished financially for thinking thoughts that go against the prescribed political narrative, depending on where you live? Yeah, it is. This is already happening in China, in South Africa, and now in the United Kingdom, where people are being arrested, even if it seems like they are praying in public. They are also getting arrested, believe it or not, for crimes of conscience. They don't know what you're thinking, but they're arresting people if they just look like they're thinking something that goes against the narrative. Go check it out. It's really bad. I'm going to be putting links on the written portion of this commentary, and it will be posted to Substack. So please sign up, subscribe to my Substack, and head on over there, and you can see what's going on. If you're not already connected, I think people who watch me are already really well connected, and you know this. But this is important for Christians. It's bad enough for people in the secular realm who don't know what's going on. See, once those in power have everything in place, they will be able to track your every move and every thought. Why do you think there's such a push to digitize your facial features? And every time you go to the through TSA, guess what? They're taking an eye scan of your iris. Did you know that? They are stealing your identity. And if you're an American citizen, you're not required to look into that thing. Just be polite about it. You know, you can say, I prefer not to. Thanks. See, once they've got your whole digital ID, digital currency, all of your thoughts, they will have full control of your finances and do what they want. Look what happened to the truckers in Canada. All their bank accounts were frozen. They couldn't even buy more gas to get out of there, or diesel. They couldn't buy groceries to feed themselves. They couldn't pay their mortgages. All because they were there standing for freedom and liberty. So the question is, how will they get the technology inside of you? And what will link up your body to the system that will allow you to buy and sell? I believe we saw a precursor of this with the push to coerce everyone to take an experimental mRNA injection to be a part of the society. You were already a part of the society. Don't let people take your freedoms away, because then it's really hard to get them back if you manage to do so in your own lifetime. So I ask, were there nanobots in those injections? Some doctors saw something like that. These are the signs of our times, and we cannot pretend that it is not happening. Jesus taught that if we need to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves, he said that we needed to be, not if. Wisdom will require that we understand our times and act accordingly. We can't just sit around and put our head in the sand. You'll be the first to go, and so will your family. Beware of so-called experts claiming a consensus. Ask questions and remember the enemy's goal is to steal, kill, and destroy every human alive. Ask, ask, ask. If you've ever met anyone in the Secret Service that is above board, they don't trust anybody because they've seen it. They've seen it. If you know doctors who push this off and fought it off, man, they can fill your ear with all sorts of truths. So we have to know, even if it's to save people that we love and not push them into taking an experiment and then being sorry that we did that to them because we were ignorant of the facts. Like I mentioned before, I have a Substack, Living into the Truth. Ministries, I'm not sure if the ministry is on there, but Living into the Truth ministry. And I do put links there to these commentaries so that you are able to look up what I'm talking about and go to the sources of what was done and how things are done and what is in the works. And I hope that you'll tune in next time for the next commentary series. Thanks again, and I hope to see you on my Substack. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and like. It does help my ministry. And also on my website, there is a way to contribute to this ministry so that it can continue on. And it is a nonprofit organization, so you will be getting back a tax-deductible receipt. See you next time. Thanks.